Have a new GR86 or BRZ and your first oil change is coming up? Wondering when you should do your first oil change and what to expect? We'll go over all those questions as well as show our RTV inspection process right now. So our oil is just about finished draining. At this time, we're gonna grab our borescope inspection camera. We're gonna put the camera wand inside the oil drain plug hole, look inside the crankcase. If there's any evidence of excess RTV, we'll show a couple clips of that right now. I'm basically going to put my wand all around in both the upper and the lower oil pan. Right there, that's the top of our oil strainer. And you can see how long that tube extends down. All right, so this pan's looking pretty good so far. If you look right there, you can see that lump of the gray silicone. Also, pro tip, these crush washers on the oil drain plug need to be replaced every single time. These are one-time use. You can tell this is the first oil change because in the factory they paint the oil pan with the drain plug and crush washer already in it. You can see right there that the crush washer, which is originally just bare metal, also gets painted. So I see this mistake all the time where whoever's working on the car doesn't see the crush washer from the first oil change, and what they end up doing is putting two crush washers on it like so. And what ends up happening is that this actually won't seal. You'll actually have a small leak with these two crush washers doubled up. We got our drain plug torqued to spec. We always put a paint pen mark just to double check ourselves. Next step, as part of our RTV inspection process, we're going to dump this oil out, and we're actually going to save like the last little swath of this, and that last little swath will have any contaminants, break-in material. We're going to inspect that to see if we have any potential engine issues. Alright, so we got our drain bucket propped up with the last little swath of oil. If you were to go to the dealership, they drain the oil straight into basically a large oil collection. So you'd never be able to inspect the oil after it's drained. Exactly why I like to use a drain bucket instead. So again, 7,700 miles. This is the first oil change. Why don't we see what we find in this oil? So first thing, I'm not seeing any RTV inside this oil, which is great news. As of late, when we do this, we'll see RTV pieces coming out.
Gotcha, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that actually is a lot. That's more RTV than I'd like to see. I know it's tough to see, but why don't we shine a light in there? All right, so hopefully you guys can see that goldish yellow tint in all these little pieces and sparkles in there. You can see some actually larger pieces in here, but this is not the worst example I've seen. I'm curious to see what the oil filter is gonna be full of the break-in material, but this is far less break-in material than I'm used to seeing on the first oil change. Although you can see we do have a lot of big chunks and sparkles in the oil, and exactly why I advocate for a 1,000-mile break-in oil change to, again, get the break-in material out of the engine as soon as possible. Why don't we cut open that oil filter and see what we find? All right, so we cut the oil filters open. And the reason we do that, we want to inspect between the pleats of the oil filter to see if there's anything abnormal, evidence of excess RTV. Why don't we take a look? It's gonna be a little tough to see, but just as I expected, you can kind of see the sparkles in this thing. As I expected, instead of seeing that break-in material in the oil we drained out, it's getting caught in these pleats. And so rolling through these pleats, we're looking for any evidence that there could be excess RTV in the engine. On the top, you can see those two little RTV pieces, but for the most part, a clean filter. In this instance, I'd probably tell the customer there's nothing to worry about based on how the oil we drained out looked, and then also how clean the filter looked in regards to amount of RTV in the engine oil filter. The RTV inspection we do is not perfect. In an ideal world, we could get the borescope camera straight into the oil strainer, but unfortunately, the oil strainer is so close to the bottom of the lower oil pan that we cannot physically get our camera probe inside the oil pickup. I'm gonna give this customer a clean bill of health for his GR86. Only thing I'd recommend is next service for this car, as recommended by Subaru, should be 5,000 miles or 5 months.